Okay, right. So we're going to get started with lesson number 11, which deals with chapter 10. Chapter 10 is the first chapter at the start of part 2 of Northern Lights, otherwise known as the Golden Compass, which you have been doing up until this point. So part 2 really kicks off a very strong part of the rising action of this whole story. We're slowly climbing towards the really intense climax. Like, so if you follow your plot mountain, we're getting to the big intense moment where there's normally a battle, or in romantic comedies and stories like that, you get the boy kisses the girl. So we're building up to the peak of this entire story. But to get there, we still need to introduce a couple of characters, and Lyra still needs to go through a couple of motions, a little bit of growth, character growth, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. So she's got some growing up to do, which of course ties in with our theme of childhood, innocence, and maturity. So there's quite a lot to deal with this theme at the start of this chapter. So when we have they set off for their journey, and Lyra's going with them north, and basically John Farr says that Father Coram used to know a witch. Obviously Lyra is very interested about this, and he tells the entire story. Father Coram tells the entire story of how he saved her life. He was very shocked in the beginning because he said that he had the most grim shock he'd ever known, because that young woman had no demon. So the witch didn't have a demon, and it was very confusing. That concept of not having a demon was very confusing and strange to Lyra, because obviously that's unnatural in their world. It's not something it's like losing a piece of your soul. Because again, the more we delve into this book, the more we will realize that your consciousness, your soul, that makes you human, which ties in with our theme of humanity, identity, and the soul, that is very closely linked to your demon. So there's a passage in the book that says, it was as if he'd said she had no head. The very thought was repugnant. The men shuddered. Their demons bristled or shook themselves or cawed harshly, and the men soothed them. Pantalaimon crept into Lyra's arms, their hearts beating together. So the fact that this witch that Father Coram knew didn't have a demon was very shocking and very disturbing. But then we later find out, of course, that her demon can just go very many miles or kilometers far away from her. So witches do still have demons. They can just separate from their demons, which is not something that Lyra or any of the other people in this world can do. So there we hear the little story, the backstory of Father Coram and everything that he went through. So I will do a picture somewhere up, okay, here in the video, where I'll put a picture down of Serafina Pekkala, which we later on in the chapter learn that is the witch's name, that Father Coram, who's, he saved her life. These are various interpretations of Serafina Pekkala. So her name's Serafina Pekkala. And it would obviously be a great thing for them to have the witches on their side. Can you think why? Why would it be a good idea to have a witch on their side, having read the stuff that you have read from the chapter so far? So just think about that for a little while, kind of get that in your mind, especially considering what they're setting out to go and do. So they carry on with their journey and everything is going all good. Eventually now they get to Trollesund, which is where they're on their way to, and they're there to meet the witch consul. So just like we have consuls in South Africa, we have the American consulate and the Brazilian consulate, and we have all these different consulates. We have representatives from those countries that work in the offices over there. They help with visas, they do diplomatic things, they go to meetings, they meet with other South African politicians or leaders. And that is how, we interact as nations. So similarly in this world, they have a witch consulate. So if they want to get information to or from the witches, the normal people, let's put it that way. So in this case, the Egyptians are the ones that want to talk to the witches. They go see the consul or the consulate. And that man is a man. I'll also put another picture up of him somewhere here. So here we can see Dr. Lonselius as he appears in the BBC production, His Dark Materials. He's not really described like this in the book, but you can basically make up your own mind as to how you think he should look. If they meet with him. Now, this section of the book where Father Coram and Dr. Lonselius are talking to each other is so filled with political manipulation. They are, when they have their conversation with each other, they are so closely, it's like they're playing a game of chess almost, Lyra says at one point in the book, because Father Coram isn't going to say or do anything that is going to give anything away, let's say, from their position or their point of view, from the Egyptians' point of view. But he does also want Dr. Lonselius's help, and he wants the help of the witches. So he tries to be as honest and earnest as he can. He doesn't want to give too much away, which is why in the beginning he lies, or he tries to lie, and he says that no, Lyra can't read it. But Lyra is becoming more and more mature every day. So we can see then with our theme, I think I'll actually put themes up here as well. We can see that she is growing and evolving, and this is where we see that when she notices Dr. Lonselius' serpent demon get agitated about the lie, she comes forward and she tells the truth. And that links in with our theme of childhood, innocence, and maturity. Then she does the lithiometer reading for him. She does 2 readings for him. The first one was a test. He already knew the answer to the first one, but he asked it for her to sort of gauge whether or not she actually knows what she's talking about, if she can actually use the lithiometer. It turns out she can. And then he sort of sends her on another quest to go pick Serafina Pecola's cloud pine out of the bunch. And I think it was mainly just to get her out of the room. Because here we have one of the biggest examples in the book of destiny versus free will. Lyra at this point is outside. She's trying to ride the cloud pine, so she's trying to ride the witch broomstick, and she's having fun with it. So you can still see she still has that childhood at heart, but she's going to very quickly be pushed in the next couple of chapters into the sort of situation where she has a title. Okay, she is the girl that was chosen. She has been prophesied by the witches for many years now, and they have been making prophecies about her, and they're saying that this is the girl who would come, and this is the girl who's going to save everybody's life, you know. So it's quite a lot for her to have on her shoulders. He does, however, say that she mustn't know. So nobody must help her. She mustn't know. If she knows of this destiny that she is to fulfill, then, you know, she might not fulfill it. So here we can really discuss the theme of free will versus destiny. Lyra's always been interested in the North. Did she want to so desperately go to the North because she was, you know, just curious about it? Or is she on a very specific path? Is she sort of forced to make the decisions that she's forced? Why is she the one that can read the alethiometer and not anybody else? She's the one that can feel the symbols and the meanings, and she can go down like steps of a ladder in her mind, and she can think about the different meanings for things. So when we have that, that is where we can look at the theme of destiny versus free will. We can talk about that a little bit and ask those types of questions. And then next, or not next, basically after that, the consul just advises them to go see the bear, or to go try and hire the bear. This is really just the introduction at the end of the chapter that we get of Yorick Bernison. He's an armored bear, and to an armored bear later on in the story it will become very relevant, but to an armored bear, their armor is like their soul that they wear outside of their body. So like the humans would have demons, an armored bear has armor. Yorick obviously had his armor taken away from him using tricks and deceptions. So there we have the truth, lies, and morality come into play theme, where we see that the people weren't very truthful or honorable in any way towards Yorick Bernison. And he's basically like he's a lapdog for them, so he's working for them for scraps, drinking so that he sleeps, so that he forgets about the fact that he doesn't have his armor. So that's really the only thing that he wants. So when they come to him and they try and hire him, it is with the specific intention of him getting his armor back. So that's what he wants from them. And then the last thing that I want to mention as well, that I'll also put up, this theme up on the screen, is way back in the beginning of the chapter when Lyra first starts talking to Jerry, the seaman. They discuss, demons changing form and demons settling, and when you get older, you learn the type of person that you are through what your demon is. So, or if you're unhappy with what your demon settles as, then maybe you haven't thought much about yourself or within yourself what type of person you are. So when they have that little discussion, it's maybe just a good thing to keep in mind for now, because again, the demons are intimately connected with the humanity, identity, and the soul. And your identity, let me ask you this, is how do you see yourself? How do you think others see you? And how would that translate in an external manifestation? So I have asked a question like this before in contextual questions that you've received, I think. But if you had to think about what kind of demon you would have, that's sort of the idea that we are thinking about when we're talking about the theme of humanity, identity, and soul. Are you more like a dog that is loyal and that is true to a master and that loves to serve, those kinds of things? Are you more like an eagle that's free and wild and unable to be tamed? So it's all these different aspects of personalities that reflect in demons, or that reflect as your soul in this world. And these are the kinds of questions that we have to start asking the further and further we move on with the story, because next what's going to happen is we're going to realize what the gobblers are doing, or what the General Oblation Board is doing, and why they're doing it. And that's very closely linked to demons and humans.